Hey guys, in this video I'm gonna show you how to draw and paint fur, and I'm gonna show you two different easy techniques that I use to do so, and I incorporate both when I'm painting an animal. So without any further ado, let's just jump right in. So in this video I'm gonna put all my focus on creating and painting fur only, hence the reason why I already drew and painted the eyes and the nose. So the first step is to create the rough sketch for the animal that you are painting, and also making sure you are creating a rough sketch for the fur, as well as it will help us later on in the process in deciding the direction of the fur, or what the direction is going to be when we are kind of drawing those strands for the fur. So that's number one. I was using a reference which I will show you guys in a minute. The next step is to lay down all the base colors first. So once you have your rough sketch, create another layer right underneath your rough sketch, and then you want to lay down all the shadows, the highlights, every sort of shading that there is in your reference image. You do it right now in this second step, and I'm using soft airbrush to do so. You can use any brush, it doesn't really matter at this point because we're just filling in the parts. So as you guys can see, I laid down, or I am laying down here in this video, all the colors that are there in the reference. Another major thing that you want to keep in mind, and you cannot really forget that, wherever there is fur, or wherever you are going to be drawing the fur, you want to add dark color as your base color. So for example, if the color of the fur is white, you want to use gray or some sort of dark gray as the base color, while you're adding all the base colors and shadows and everything. And I will tell you guys why later, but just keep that in mind. Here in this video you will see where the cat has cream kind of fur, I added really dark brown kind of color as the base color. Now it really helps when we are creating or painting the fur later on in the process. It really helps in creating that depth and shadow for the fur, and to make it look realistic as well. So yeah, I hope this is making sense for now. You will see what I'm talking about later in the video, but yeah, for now keep in mind, add all the base colors, all the shadows, all the highlights, and wherever you are going to be painting the fur, add a darker color as the base color. So that is the second step. So as you guys can see here, I laid down everything, and I also made sure that I'm doing these in separate layers. So you want to make sure that you have separate layers with you. So here what I'm doing is on the head of the cat, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be using blending tool and technical pen, and making sure the size of the brush is large, and I'm just going to move pixels like that to create this fur kind of structure. And I also merged all the layers where I added the base colors for the head, and right at the bottom I'm gonna be drawing the fur using a brush. So let's just get started with the first technique, which is to move pixels. So as you guys can see, I actually merged all the layers for the head because I am going to be using blending tool here. So you want to make sure everything is in just one layer. So when we are moving pixels, or when we are blending with the technical pen, we are also, you know, kind of mixing different colors together so that it looks realistic. I hope this makes color over that beige color in a shape of a fur. Hence the reason why I used technical pen as blending tool, because blending tool does what? It moves pixels from one color to the another. So also making sure that the opacity of the brush is maximum, and or in this hair strand kind of way. I hope this is making sense. So if you are not really used to it, what you can do is you can just do a little practice before you go ahead and do this on your painting, so you can just do a little practice. And if you don't know how these blending tools work, I will link a video down in the description so that you can go ahead and watch the video in depth as to how these work. So I'm just going to fast forward the process a little bit, and as you guys can see, it is looking pretty good. So I'm just going to do this little technique all over, also around the edges of the head as well, just to make the cat look furry. So I'm just going to speed up the process a little here. Okay, so in this step we are actually gonna draw fur using brushes. So I went ahead and changed the layer, and now I'm gonna pick a lighter color of this brown kind of color. As you guys can see, I'm picking up a lighter version of this color, and I also made sure that I enabled alpha lock on the layer. So the color was a little too light, so I went ahead and darkened it up a little bit, just so it looks a little natural on that base color. So obviously I'm gonna use technical pen for this step, as I use technical pen for everything, and making sure the size of the brush is a little larger than usual. So when we paint hair, like human hair, the size of the brush is really small, but when it comes to painting fur, we want to make sure the size of the brush is larger, so that we can, you know, draw the chunks of fur really easily. So as you guys can see, the strands are pretty thick. That's what you want to do. Also, as I mentioned earlier in this video, make sure to create rough sketch for the fur so that it can help us in deciding the direction for these strands that we are creating here. So keeping that in mind and using the rough sketch as reference, I'm just drawing these hair strands. And once you are happy with the strands, pick up your blending tool and soft brush and just blend any edges which look harsh. Now this time you want to make sure the opacity of the blending tool is low, is minimum, and also the size of the brush is not too large, because we are blending out these strands and we don't want to spread out the color all over. Now the next step is to pick up technical pen once again and decrease the size of the brush a little bit, and also pick up a even lighter color than the color we just used. And this time around we are gonna be adding these small, not small but thin strands. So before they were thick in nature, before the strands were thick in nature, this time around these are gonna be a little thin and also a little lighter than before. So yeah, just do that, follow the same direction as we did while adding those thick chunks of strands, and keep doing that. And once you're happy with that, pick up your blending tools and soft airbrush, making sure the size of the brush is minimum and also the opacity. Just blend the edges out. When I say edges, I mean the starting and the end points of these strands, because they look pretty harsh right now. So we want to make sure that strands look natural and you cannot really tell where they're coming, color here and there, and also making sure that I'm blending it at the same time. Hence the reason why I'm using soft blend brush. So if you don't know how the soft blend brush works, I'm just going to link a video down in the description. And if you're using some other software or app, it doesn't really matter. You can use your smudge tool, smudge brush. You can use any brush which is close to the brush that I'm using in this tutorial. So yeah, I'm just adding shadows right here, and it's really easy. You don't really have to do it, but just add a little bit of depth to the fur. So in the next step, I am disabling the alpha lock, picking up blending tool again in technical pen in blending tool, making sure the opacity is up to the max, and also the size of the brush. We are again gonna create this fur kind of effect by just moving pixels from one color to the another in the shape of the hair strand, as we did for the head. So I am doing it mostly around the edges of this chunk or this part of the cat, and just to make the fur look more flowy, more natural and realistic. So that's what I'm doing right here. So in this next step, I'm picking up light brush and I'm just going to create a new layer and add clipping mask to it so that we are not ruining the fur that we created. And I'm adding these random highlights over the fur, adding Gaussian blur to it and reducing the opacity just to, you know, add some sort of highlights to the fur. So that's what I did, and your fur is complete. Now I'm just going to paint the rest of it. As you guys can see, I'm just following the same steps. And yeah, I'm just gonna fast forward this part because I already explained how to actually draw fur. So that's how I did it. So once I was done with the fur part, what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna create another layer right above every other layer and picking up a really light color. And I picked up technical pen, decreased the size of the brush, and here I am adding mustache. And yeah, that's really simple. There's nothing much to explain for the mustache part. Just make sure the strands are quite thin. Now as you guys can see right at the bottom, I not only created fur using the brush but also used my blending tool technique to add more furry effect to the cat. I hope you saw that. So yeah, here we have our mustache, and I'm also gonna draw hair in the ears as well, as I was following the reference. So what I did, I just created these hair strands, pretty thin hair strands, and then I picked up my blending tool, making sure that the size is really small because I didn't want to spread the color all over, and I only wanted to blend out those thin hair strands. So I made sure that the size of the blending tool was really small, and I started blending that out. And yeah, that part was quite simple because I didn't need to add any shadows or any highlights in there because yeah, those hair were simple to draw. So that's what I did. I blended it out and I also cleaned it up here and there. So it was simple. There's like nothing much to explain in this part. And the hair strands were looking pretty dull, so what I did is I alpha locked the layer, picked up even lighter color, like white kind of color, and using soft airbrush I went over those hair strands to make them look a little lighter as they were looking a little dull. So yeah, that's it. That's how you actually create fur and draw fur, and I showed you two different techniques, and I would highly recommend you guys to incorporate both of the techniques as I did in this video, as it just creates this really nice, natural and realistic kind of look for the animal that you're painting. So use both of those techniques to really make the fur look natural and flowy. Other than that, the cat is complete. I'm just gonna add some background and some elements, and my painting is complete. I really hope you guys enjoyed. Give this video a big thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, and I will see you guys in my next video.